I'm Sal. I go by UpATree, and I've been playing this game for a very long 14 years. And it feels very long to be past a decade. A little bit too long.
So when did you get into StarCraft?
I got into StarCraft like 2 months after the release of SC2. So I was like a little bit late, and then I just played as like a bronze leaguer for like 6 months. And then I stumbled on some guy watching Idris stream while I was in like a computer lab. And then that's it. Then the degeneracy really began. It was 3 games a day until that. Then that was all in.
Did you get into Broodlord at all?
So I played like maybe 10 games of Broodlord with my friends. We like pirated a copy each, and then we played like one night, and they just cannon rushed me. They had no idea. None of us had any idea what we were doing. We just knew it was an RTS, and we just played that for a little while. But then I never went back. Actually, I never played it again until Remaster, and then I played like 10 games and was like, this is way too hard. And then recently, when my chat decided that we would swap out the 1,500 games of Stormgate for getting rank or B rank in Brood War, and I have lost all the games I've played but 2. It's been a thing, an experience.
That's extremely difficult.
That is, yeah. It had to be a lot of suffering because I went back on my word. So.
All right. All right. So anyways, so you got into StarCraft 2 about 2 months after its release. What appealed to you about StarCraft?
That's it. It was like, I don't know. It was like, at first it was just the dopamine of it, and then there was the delusion that you could play professionally, which I just don't have the talent to do. I eventually came to terms with that. But yeah, that's it. The 2 things. Like, it was just an impossibly difficult game, and yeah, and I've just loved the shit out of it ever since.
Can you give a go at describing what StarCraft is as a game?
I don't know. It's difficult to describe. It just feels like you're just constantly trying to put out a fire, but like also sometimes it's just I don't even know. Trying to describe StarCraft is a difficult thing to do this many years into it. It's like trying to describe the physics behind breathing or something. It's just like I don't know, it feels like the perfect game.
Do you remember some of the early metas that you were playing back in Wings of Liberty?
Early metas? No, I just remember losing to Protoss a lot. Like, I remember, because back then it was so bad. Like, my actual recollection of StarCraft 2 kind of begins probably like late Heart of the Swarm, because before that I think I was just so unfocused, but like not really learning build orders properly or correctly. Just thinking that I could grind through the game, like obviously basing my play off of pros, but never really doing like the right thing or optimizing. But I just remember being in Wings of Liberty, thinking that 3-3 Protoss was just like insane, and trying to figure out how to deal with that, and just so bad. I remember being so utterly incompetent, and also being in Master League. So it's like a really weird. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that's ever changed, actually, the incompetence and actually being all right.
When it came to Protoss, can you give your feelings on how Protoss was and how it changed for now in Legacy of the Void?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know. I think my perception of it was not correct. Like, it's because I was very bad and had none of the skills required to play properly against the race at all. And then now I have more of those skills, right? I vary my build order selection more. I have the micro to back up the engagements that you need to do. And so now it feels much better. And I also just understand the fundamentals a lot more, right? I used to have this idea that Terran was like, if you played really well in defensive, you could win. But then I realized it's a timing oriented race, and you should do that instead, because it'd make your life a lot easier.
I watched a lot of Idra back in the day, and
yeah.
He always was complaining about Protoss.
Yeah, he complained about everything.
When did you get into the esports side of things? I
actually don't know what the first event that I would have watched is, but basically immediately after I started watching streams. Like, I think like the first thing I probably would have consumed was like the Idra Rage compilation. And then I discovered that there was pro play, and then basically everything after that. But my memory is terrible. Like when you guys know all of the things that happened, it's like an enigma to me because like I can't remember who won shit ever. I'm so bad at that. It's like my memory is absolutely the worst thing. It just feels like I remember the experience and not the actual events. But yeah, like I think my first HomeStory Cup watching would have been 3. I think I missed 1 and 2, but I think 3 would have been the first that I actually, remember watching for sure. And like early NASLs and IPLs. And I missed the first season of GSL. Like I remember staying up like and passing out in like my big ass comfy chair waiting for Nanawa to play his group in like 240p. Those are the days. Like I can't believe we've gotten to the point that we were complaining about like 720p, like dream hacks, and then I remember like looking at like a bunch of pixels that are just like this big, trying to watch GomTV. Yeah.
Can you explain the GomTV experience back then?
It was essentially like, it was Twitch eventually implemented like you could literally pay you have to be subscribed to watch. It was essentially that. It was like password sharing was the thing. Everyone would like share their passwords to watch the GomTV live. It's like, it was pay-per-view pretty much way back when. But they had a free version that you could watch at like 240p. It was great. And you had a player, and you needed the address, if I recall correctly, in order to actually watch it. I don't know if they had an embed. They actually had a play. I feel like I remember having to get the player and open it in order to watch. Yeah, those are the days.
Do you remember any of the content creators that used to watch back then?
Everyone. Like, anyone, like all of the top like 50 streamers, like I would have watched them. Like, I can't even remember the guy's name, but he ended up playing, I think he ended up playing Hearth. He was a French guy. Like he was one of the original ones. I can't even remember. I remember watching Dragon before he became Troll Dragon. I remember like watching all of the EG boys. Like I watched Moro play. Like everyone. Like if you were streaming, I was watching. Like at some point, and especially if you were playing. Actually, pretty much exclusively if you were playing Terran. Like even that kind of hasn't changed because I don't know. I'm like that.
What were your favorite Terran players?
Like early, like Thorzane MVP, and then Maru, and then Bjorn, and now Clem. Like, you can't help yourself. But Gabe, like Gabe has a special place in my heart, man. I always want Gabe to win, always.
Can you talk about MVP? What you liked about him?
He was just so fucking good. He was so good at the game. Like, yeah, and I don't know, I miss those days. Like, I miss the teams. Like I think I miss that more than the players. I miss the enigma. Like I miss like when he would show up, it was like holy shit. Like you had so little access compared to now. The exclusivity was kind of, it built like a larger than life thing out of it. But he was just so consistent and probably like the first like, is this guy beatable kind of thing that I remember going through back then. I miss that.
Do you remember, did you watch the MVP Squirtle finals?
Yes, I did watch that. And I remember sitting there in my big ass, stupid green comfy chair and being like, he's actually going to proxy in Game 7. This guy's a fucking menace. He's an absolute menace. Like and I was terrible and I was not a cheeser, but I was like, this is championship material. Like but everything is on the line. And the guy's like, all right, I'm going to put 3 barracks, or like 2 barracks, whatever it was. I don't even remember what happened game 1 through 6. There's the BCs, I remember that, and then there was the proxy barracks. And I was like, God damn it.
Do you remember initially that was like a failure? They thought that he had failed the rush?
Now that you mention it, absolutely. I was like, man, this is why you don't do this shit. And then he fucking wins anyway. Like, there's so many tenacious moments like that early on. It's something I miss.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember Jjakji at all?
Yes. Yeah, he won. God, what did he upset? Was it Code S? He won 1 Code S?
He faced Lenok in the finals.
Yeah, and then he moved to Europe.
He did.
Yeah, and then he played, and then from there it gets kind of hazy. And then I think he played in a bunch of stuff, and then kind of slowly. But I really I wanted him to win too because I love the underdog story. Like and I didn't mention it, but Oliveira. When Oliveira won, I remember I was like late to teaching martial arts or something. And the students were inside, and I was like, no, you stay there. I had my phone out. I was like needed to watch this guy win this crap. Yeah.
Do you remember that Jjakji, he actually hit a command center behind a mineral line
No.
in those finals?
I don't remember that.
Yeah.
But that feels right.
It's an impossibility now, right? Because they have to
Yeah.
put the mineral line so close to the edge because of Liberators.
Oh yeah. Goddamn Liberators, man.
It's a hot topic now.
Yeah, it is.
What was your first offline event that you attended?
It's so like I had like 2 eras. I guess 3 eras. I had fan era and then like player era and then streamer era. And they kind of overlap a bit, but like I think it was NASL season the one that was in Toronto, season 2? Yeah, I think I went to one of the really early NASLs. I'm not 100%. But then I had no streams, no nothing. Like I hadn't done anything. And then I had an era where I played and went to all the Toronto regional events. I was at the base trade event. Like I did a lot of, like I went to a lot of those. Went to like the Kings in the North, like all that kind of stuff. But I don't remember if I had one of those that came first, like a small one, or not. Like but I think the first one I remember was an NASL event. I had like a hoodie, then I lost it. I was a huge bummer. Like I had an MLG shirt or hoodie I got too in 2013, I think at Raleigh, and I lost that. And every once in a while I wake up in a cold sweat.
You were at the rally,
Yes.
MLG? Wow, I was there too.
Yeah.
The one that's there was the WCS, like the very, very first system of WCS.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the regionals, and it was Scarlet Vibe in the finals.
Yeah, and I think Vibe made it out of the open bracket type thing over Idra, maybe? I can't remember. But I do remember, like I played in that. So like that was the first, like that was where the gap started to change. Like I started to go from just like dude watching StarCraft to dude playing StarCraft. Yeah.
Do you remember, can you explain some of like the atmosphere that you remember of those early days?
It was just sick. The closest you get to it now is when they're doing the ESL like group stages, and then everyone gets like around whenever you see like, I remember I think Sasha was playing maybe Hearthstone, and they had this like crazy like hour-long PVZ, and you had like a group of people. It was like a tumor or something off the side of the just like a bubble of people all watching one game over each other's shoulders. It was like that, but like everywhere, and the hype was like super crazy. Yeah, I remember those. I miss the playing days where you could just show up and play. Yeah.
Can you talk about how StarCraft 2 was kind of like the esport at that time? Like, do you remember a lot of other esports having
I remember
a place?
when it was like, literally, there was nothing. Like, the argument was which was bigger, StarCraft 2 or League, right? And obviously, League absolutely won the hell out of that war. But I remember like when the StarCraft stage was like next to the League stage, and it was still bigger. Yeah, I mean, for a while, it was the only one. And I mean, I know the FPSs were going on. Like, it's not like I'm super esports illiterate, but like at the time, it was just so much greater than everything else. Everyone was caught up in the hype of the thing, for sure.
Did you pay attention to the Kespa players and their move over to StarCraft 2?
Yeah.
What were your thoughts on that?
Man, watching Flashroom was good. I mean, it felt like it was one of those things that was always conflicted because I loved the people that were kind of there already, but then like you also wanted to see the Kespa boys come in and just do exactly what everyone said they would do, and just absolutely wreck face. Yeah, I loved the Pro League era. Like I miss that a lot. Like the Team League era is something I miss. I think it's just missing. Like WTL is close, and now it's kind of come to an end, at least technically. Like you never really know what's going to happen there, but that era I miss that a lot.
Do you have a favorite team?
Not really. I just wanted to see the StarCraft. So it was like whoever was like, it's kind of like for me, it was always just like as the tournaments later and later, I more like had favorite players than I did the teams specifically. I never ended up really getting locked in on a team. That's just not the kind of guy I've ever been, really.
Do you remember when Heart of the Swarm? Well, actually, first of all, so did you have an opinion on Broodlord Infestor?
Yeah, it was terrible. But like, again, I was bad, so like, there's a countable number of games I can even remember where I really lost and was like, huh. Like, could you, like, what do you even do with that? I still, like, I remember even when that was happening at the pro level, like, people were killing me with ultras. Like, no one built ultras. Like, you were just building Broodlord, Infestor, and camping. So I was terrible. So fortunately, I was never good enough to experience the true hell. But like, yeah, I remember the imba. Yeah, I remember that, and I remember that era, and I remember how bad it was too. Like, that they let it sit for so long. Yeah, it's rough.
And what were your opinions about the Heart of the Swarm expansion release?
Oh, I remember. I remember when I remember downloading that, like, off of a cell connection when we only had 3G, and I was tethering off my phone in my girlfriend's apartment, now wife, who's sitting somewhere. And I remember like waiting like a day to get that, and I mean, it was a good expansion. Like, I don't know, like, I enjoyed, because I was getting reasonable, like, better at that time. And so, and then I started streaming, so I have fond memories. Like, it's hard for me to look back and hate anything that happened there, because I just kind of enjoyed it. I don't know. Is it surprising?
It is surprising, yeah. I remember them as the darkest days, actually.
So what's, oh.
There were so many Swarm host games, but also StarCraft was in a real struggle point.
You know what, looking back at it, I thought the Swarm host shit was funny. But the reason is because we never experienced the fallout. Like, experiencing the fallout was something that I didn't do as someone in the scene yet. I wasn't really aware of how bad that last thing actually was. So my memories are like being like, how could they, like, I remember being a fan, being upset and like laughing at how stupid it was that they let this go. That's my memory. But looking back at it now, yeah, that was terrible. It was infinitely worse than Broodlord Infestor, because at least you died with Broodlord Infestor, but with Swarmos, you just sat there and they just rally. Yeah, like, looking back at it from me now, that was terrible. But thinking about the expansion and my experience, like, one of my memories I love was like, I was watching MVP play and he was losing. He lost all of his army, and then there was one game where he had like battle cruisers or something, and he had like a 30-second window, and he just A-moved across the map and just won, even though he'd been completely out expanded. I even remember the map. It was like one of the early HOTS maps, and I cannot remember the name because I'm super bad with names. But he won like in like the greatest timing. It was such a small window. Like, had he not attacked at that exact moment, he would have been completely out macroed. Because he just took like tons of economic damage. Like, those are my memories. Like, you know, Widowmine, like, all over the map, and playing against Zerg. Like, that's my memories. Because like, as a Terran, you didn't experience Swarmhost in the same way that everyone else did, right? The Zergs experienced Swarmhost, and the Protosses experienced Swarmhost. But yeah, I mean, we played mech, so like, that was fine. Or we played Bio, and that was fun. Yeah. Like.
Do you remember? I was watching a game recently, just doing some of these interviews. Do you remember the Hellion Opener phase at TvT?
Like in TvT? In which expansion?
I think it was Heart of the Swarm. You would open with 4 or 6 Hellions. That was your opener.
Was this when they would become Hellbats and you would drop them?
Well, yeah, Heart of the Swarm did have that phase where like TvT was literally.
That's what I remember. Was the Hellbat drops when they nerfed the cargo, because it was like ridiculous that you could put 4 in each one. And just mineral line drop them. Yeah, I remember that.
I forgot that's one of the reasons why that existed.
Yes.
Oh, good times. Do you remember the old timer for the auto turrets and the sensor, or not the sensor, the point defense drone?
Oh man, yeah. So like, that was again like getting when you got like okay at the game. Well, your TVTs went long a lot, and Raven Viking like tank was just, that was bad. But I'm just a patient guy. Like, I will play. Like, I will play you in 5 50-minute games, and I will walk away with like the sunshine in my hair. Like, I don't give a shit, but it'll tilt the shit out of people I play. So like, I'm just not, I'm not really that. I do remember that shit though. Like, and I remember at the end it gets old. Like, anything you do all the time gets old.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, the Raven went through so many changes, right?
Tons.
Yeah, there was the point defense drone. Then there was the
Seeker missile.
Seeker missile.
Then Seeker missile doing no damage.
Right, yeah.
But still doing damage. Like, it did like 10 damage. And Maru was like, we could still build them. It's okay. And then they were like, and then he was like, okay, so we can't do that. So now we're in the phase where it's just the anti-armor and then nothing. And then the auto turret phase, because they got that nerfed. And then now we're in the disable phase. Yeah, it's seen a lot of iterations. It's been tough to get that unit right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you were starting to become a good player, you know, around Heart of the Swarm.
Good.
Sure, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But I wanted to ask you about the North American scene back in those days. You know, what do you remember from that? Right now, people perceive it as, you know, kind of the failed region. But, you know, for me, I remember stacked qualifiers. I mean, like, you know, hundreds of people playing from just North America in some of these qualifiers.
Yeah, I mean, I have my opinions on why it ended up the way that it is now, and you probably agree, or maybe not. I don't know. But back then, I remember just driving to LANs and playing not so much online stuff like Kings of the North, and then driving to Cheesadelphia. I remember like being at Cheesadelphia when I got my Twitch partnership email. Like that was a huge thing for me. Like that was such a massive milestone. I played so many online things. Like they don't even show. I don't even have them in Wikipedia. Like they're so old and so long ago. Yeah, I like went to everything that you could within like a 2 or 3 hour drive. Yeah, like that's like traveling. Yeah.
So before we get on to your thoughts as to, I guess, why NA kind of failed, let's talk about Region Lock first. What did you think about Region Lock?
It was a good idea. Should have stayed. Like, and I say that because, and it kind of leads into the other part. It's just like without something to play for, people will quit. And once you get to the highest level, like playing for a GM border for 14 years, like no one's gonna keep doing that. And EU has kind of gotten a pseudo region lock from the Koreans, and the Koreans have gotten a pseudo region lock from everyone else because no one will play the events because ping is too bad. Like you get the occasional player who's absolutely insane enough to try and like play in the EU, ESL, you know, and like cups and stuff like that. But like I don't even know the last time an NA player won an ESL Open Cup. I don't even know if they ever have. Like it's either won by a Korean or a European. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just that if you're an NA player, what is the incentive if you can't even place in your own cup for the weekly, and you can't even earn like $40 to $80 a week because literally the top like 3 players in the world are clowning the shit out of you in the round of 32. Everyone just quit. Like everyone just gave up because there's no point. And that kind of has a trickle down effect because once those people stop playing because they can't play anything online, then they stop playing, so they stop going to LANs. All the LANs stop. Right? It's a chicken and the egg kind of thing where no one has anything to play for or in, and then nobody plays. There's a reason that there's amateur divisions and you don't just let like whoever come down. And I know this kind of anecdotally because like occasionally playing at like the Passion Craft Cups, and like when Roddy will occasionally organize, like he just did the 16-man bracket, like those things make me want to play. Even when I'm like, I got other shit to do, it makes me want to practice build orders and give a shit. Because at this point, I'm a streamer. Like if I just want to show up and phone it in, like we'll just play some crazy games. That's great content. Why not? Like the worse I am, the funnier it is. But you know, those events, they keep me wanting to actually compete. Without them, I mean, what's the incentive? People will just stop. They'll go do other stuff. They won't even spend their time on it. And that's what's kind of happened.
So did you think that the region lock, the definitive region lock in 2015, did you think that it achieved its goals?
I think it did its goals for the rest of the world, but hurt the Korean scene. And I don't think there's any, it's not like I'm not empathetic towards that or anything like that. It definitely did, or sympathetic, I guess. But yeah, I mean, the EU scene absolutely got better because there's just a reason to play. There's a reason to grind. There's a reason to get better in your region or go to Korea and get better in that region. Like, yeah, they absolutely benefited because, like, for a long time, even after that, Cyril was the only one posting crazy results regularly, right? Like, Neeb had a little stint, and then Cyril had his, like, well, I wouldn't. It's not extended. It's like a era of domination. But then, yeah, you have like Raynor came up, Clem came up, right? Even like Gabe had like a period where he was posting good results, even against Koreans all the time. Like because there was a reason to play, people got better. Yeah, I think it was effective for the regions that were clearly just getting farmed. Like I say farmed in egg, but you know, like it farmed in an MMR sense. Like they were just getting, every tournament was like top 8 Korean, like all the prize, like yeah.
What are your opinions on why NA didn't see that same boost?
Mainly, like, again, I truly think at this point, I mean, it kind of did. Like there were still a lot of NA players until they actually closed the regionals completely. Like, yeah, I think there was still fairly active. Like I think the early ESL Open Cups in the NA had a lot of NA players sign up, like probably twice as many or maybe 3 times as many as now. But yeah, the lack of online anything, because you only have 2 things to play in a year now that are just for NA players that are serious. There's the regional events or whatever, and a lot more people play those than play, like from the NA region, play those than play the weeklies. Like that's, people literally unretire for those. They won't play StarCraft, and then the regionals are coming up, right? Oh, who did this forever? The Terran player. He loved to like 3 racks in every finals.
Oh, Masa?
Masa, yeah.
Oh, okay.
He would like for a long time. He would just he'd be like, oh yeah, I guess we play StarCraft now, and then he'd just show up and plays highly, and like yeah, you'd have with stuff to play in, people will play.
I was thinking of Gung Fu. He only ever appears when there's a regional.
Oh yeah, well I mean, but that's the European side of things. Yeah.
Were you attentive to the match fixing scandal with Life?
Well, yeah, but from a very, like I was again a fan, so I didn't know anybody. I knew nothing. Now I know too many things. I'm a walking liability. But at the time, I knew jack shit. So yeah, like I followed it. It was super shitty. I know how it basically inadvertently caused the eventual decline. I think if I recall correctly, TL was going to do a partnership with Kespa to do the betting and stuff like that. Like, if I recall, I don't remember 100%. They were in talks to do like some form of, because they used to do liquid bets. And they were going to do that, like, they were going to make that more of a formal partnership. And then they had this whole meeting and stuff, and then that came out and completely ruined all of it. Like, they if I recall correctly, and I don't 100% know, I think if they were going to do, even though StarCraft 2 was starting to decline, they had intentions with it, even as a product that was like, to try and revitalize it. But they just, after that, it was like, forget it.
Yeah, they definitely weren't planning on shutting down like Pro League and Kespa teams.
My understanding was that they were intending to continue,
Yeah. Well, the live, match fixing, and then also the Kespa chairman had a, what's the word? Stealing money from business. What's the...
Wait, he did?
Embezzling. There we go.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many things that now you don't, like, I didn't know at the time. Because when you don't know anybody, like, you only know the random things you see on Reddit and stuff like that. Yeah.
But did you knew about Life, obviously. Like, you were watching
of course.
his
I watched him beat my favorite player in the world. I was so pissed. I think it was like 4-2 or something, 4-2. In the last GSL finals he won, the one that I think he Royal Roaded in, maybe? Or maybe the last one the MVP was in, the semis? I can't remember like exactly.
I don't recall, no.
Yeah. He faced Maru at like IEM Taipei.
No, it was a GSL.
Okay.
Like it would have like been I think if I recall, like a pretty big GSL for MVP, not 100%.
Well, can you explain kind of, you brought up there was a Royal Roader, it's hard to say, Royal Roader. Can you kind of explain for the public how impressive Life was? So
like, again, I have a really shit memory, and I can only go by like the things I recall. But like it felt like he was like Cyril of the era. Like he was like, but in the early stages, like he was just winning everything, destroying everyone, faster than everyone, like crazy build variants, and just was like an enigma. Like he was so good, and he was like he was just really realizing his potential very quickly, is what I remember. And then it just like that. Like I don't even remember how many tournaments he won before it was like all over, like how much. But I remember him just being like, very quickly one of the most scary players to play against all the time. Yeah, placing highly in like everything he played.
And then Legacy of the Void released in 2016. Do you remember that happening?
Yeah, of course. Man, what was I just remember mauling about Adepts. Like, and then that was like, the streamer era was on. So like, I remember begging Blizzard to get me into the beta. Because I was like, guys, like, I need this. Like, you don't understand. Like, no one wants to watch me play this fucking old shit. Like, give me the beta. I remember being in the beta. I remember playing the beta. Yeah, I remember the early, like, the Tankovacs. Yeah, there's like a whole era of streamers I remember who've all retired and moved on, gotten real jobs. Like, that was like, at that point though, I had become full streamer man. Like, that was my role now.
Why were Adepts making you mauled?
Okay, wasn't it two-shotting workers? So many Adepts. It's just so many Adepts, okay? They were everywhere. Teleporting everywhere. But Tankovacs were fun. But I remember, like, that was when I realized, like, I think the role of a unit matters more than the strength of a unit. Because it's like, it's a siege tank. I think the point is that it stops and sieges. Like, it was fun to use, but then you were flying, like you were defending Doom drops with your Doom drop. Like, this is craziness. Like, this is absolutely ridiculous. And so I'm glad that they changed that. Not because it was some of the most fun ever, but it was just so, it just felt like it was betraying the identity of the unit, really. Like, yeah.
Speaking of identity and units, you know, what do you think about the Mothership Core?
I mean, it had a role. But I feel like, oh man, I don't want any Protoss to take this the wrong way at all. But like, I feel like it was like the beginning of like truly leaning into the gamification, like just making, like, because obviously Warpgate is like a bit of a gimmick. Like, you can build your army anywhere, have a Warp Prism, build your army there, here, wherever you want. But like, it's just Warpgate at the start. So when we're going to give you the Mothership Core, it's a single hero unit, and you can overcharge your Nexus, like, and you can teleport places, and like, if you lose it, you're screwed. But like, you know, it just felt like we're just leaning into this like random, like nothing is serious or consistent. Don't make the units better. We're just going to give you this new unit that kind of fills a niche role, you know, and then you have to rely on that, and then we're going to give you 95 band-aids for these other problems. So if it just, that was like the beginning of that. Like, Protoss, they had the opportunity to like fix that, and they didn't, and yeah.
What do you think of, number one, the pylon overcharge?
That was terrible. It was like, I remember looking at me like, they're just going to build that in front of my base, and they're going to just hurt me with it. And then like the first game I played, it was like somebody put a pylon right in front of me and then just put the Mothership Core on the high ground. I remember just being like, how does no one think of this shit? When the devs say things like, this wasn't intended, it's like, well, did you use your brain? Because it was the first thing I thought of. Like, you put the pylon, well, I could just put the pylon anywhere. Let's just put it where we want.
And the second thing is, what do you think about when they changed the Warpgate dynamic? They made the
fast warp in versus the
slow.
I don't, and like, again, it just feels like it's just more dumb rules. Like, instead of just fixing the issues the race has, we just slap a band-aid on it. But I mean, it worked. It works out. Like, it's not like, you know, obviously Protoss is struggling right now, but it's not Celestials. Like, it's not like we can't fix this. It's like we gotta, you know, work around, but it's okay. It's just got like, it just makes things difficult. Whenever you have these things that can be super versatile, super powerful like that, but there comes a trade-off. Like, the gateway unit can't be good, because if the gateway unit's good, you put it anywhere and it just destroys you. Like, it makes the game so much more complicated to balance than it has to be, right? Like, but you can't get rid of it, because that's like Legacy of the Void trailer has a warping in. That is the premise. Like, the probe gets saved by the warping in zealots. Like, what are you gonna do? Go back? Yeah. I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It just, it makes for difficult game design stuff.
Let's talk about some of the big tournaments and players of Legacy of the Void. Were you watching a lot of Neeb's success when he won three WCSs, then Cyril beat his record at 4, but
GSL Super Tournament, right?
The Kespa Cup.
Oh, which became okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was everybody watched that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was because a foreigner won a Korean thing. That was crazy shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that paved the way for Cyril for like everyone's it was possible for Cyril to win because Neeb won. Like, not that he wouldn't have, like he's the GOAT, but like it was possible in my mind because Neeb won. Someone had walked there before.
Yeah.
Neeb won 3 of the tournaments and the Kespa Cup, which was a super big deal. We also had Scarlet. She won IEM Pyeongchang.
Yeah.
Did you watch that? You remember that?
I remember it happening. I remember Thermals win. Again, like, as someone who was playing, I watched the Terrans. Because it was like, I want to learn. I don't really...
Yeah, talk about Thermals win then, yeah. Do you remember he was called Replacement Man? He won the tournament only because he replaced someone. Yeah.
Yeah. What? No, it wasn't for was it for IEM that he won?
I think
for that?
so. Yeah.
Or was it? There was another one too, wasn't there?
Yeah, there was. Yeah.
Yeah, where he came in like last
minute.
minute. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so moving on. So then we had the arrival of Cyril, the true arrival that is in 2018. You were probably watching more Maru in GSL, maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
so you talk about Maru's dominance in GSL.
Oh, dude. I just remember him cyclone all-inning a lot of Protosses when they had the rapid fire thing, and he was just unkillable in GSL for a long time. What's he at now? They wanted to give him the 10 trophy or something like that? No?
Oh god, he's at 7 or 8, I think.
Okay, yeah, he's up there. No, 10 is too high, I guess. Yeah, he had so many. I just for a long time, like I remember the hype around like a GSL, like a Maru Cyril match that just kind of like never happened at the peak of the two. Like, well, that's not true. It's never happened when I believed that Maru would win. Like, because eventually it did happen, and it was like Cyril was just so unkillable that it was like, okay, well, this what happened here was exactly what I thought was going to happen. But the era where no one knew it was going to happen, and we never really got that at that time. Yeah.
Do you remember? I guess can you kind of explain what GSL was, compared to what it is now, but how prestigious winning even 2 GSLs was?
Oh, it was the pinnacle. Like you cared more early on. Like you cared more about GSL than anything else. Like that was like the real stuff. And it was like the preparation build and the fact that the preparation like of the builds and stuff like that. People will come with all sorts of crazy crap, and then, the fact that it was just like a couple best ofs, and it was so spread out instead. Like every match was like kind of hyped. It wasn't like rapid fire where you're sitting down, you like look away for 2 hours to go do some chores, and like half the tournament's gone by you. Like there was so much hype into everything, and everything felt way more important. Not because it like was or wasn't, but just because of how much time there was like kind of going into it. Yeah, I mean GSL was just like, I felt like I was always, I was following the Terrans through every step. I knew what was going on at all times pretty much. But like in a weekend tournament, like you cared about like round of 16. That was when it really started. Aside from following like your favorite players, like I remember, being at family functions, like watching Idra trying to make it up the bracket from the open bracket, like, and just watching the run, like that kind of stuff. But yeah.
What were some of your favorite times, I guess, in meta or players or anything?
I think I really liked the innovation era. Like when Inno was like when he had kind of learned to cheese a little bit, because for a while he was literally like, innovation was the dumbest name he could have ever chosen, because the dude did the same thing every game, but extremely well, like, don't get me wrong. Yeah, I kind of like the era where it was just like biomine and just like good execution, and he'd kind of learned to cheese a little bit, mix things up. I just remember that very fondly. Like, I couldn't tell you a single match, but like that era, I remember watching it. It was like, posting good results was a lot of fun. Innovation was great fun.
I remember it was 2017 when he came up with the Banshee, the double Banshee or something like that.
Like the Hellion Banshee that everyone still kind of plays?
No,
or?
no, not 3cc Hellion Banshee. No, it was like a double Banshee build. I just remember because he did it in GSL, and the next day I was casting my first day at Montreal, and Masa stole the build.
Yeah.
He had watched GSL 6 hours before his game.
Yeah.
And I did not.
Well, we used to do Banshee, but with no 3cc, because
it was like a 2-star port Banshee or something, or like mass
okay,
Banshee.
yeah.
It was
nasty.
it was cheesy.
Yeah,
and that's when innovation
Actually,
finally.
no, I do remember doing that, and I remember being so bad at it, because like back then, I would steal builds but not understand the intention or the purpose.
Sure.
Right, and I still make this mistake, but a lot less now. Where now it's like, okay, well, why am I doing this thing? And there's a huge distinction, but back then I just didn't understand that, because I was, I don't know, stupid? I'm not really sure. But like, just didn't understand that it was a strategy game at the end of the day. I don't know.
And then moving forward, you know, what were your thoughts and feelings when Cyril won BlizzCon?
You know, who did he even beat? Like,
he beat Rogue in the semifinals.
Yeah.
In the finals, he beat Stats.
like, I don't even remember that. I just remember him winning everything. Like, I just remember him winning. Like, I don't remember when he did it the first time. I just remember that he just won everything, and it was just crazy that he would just beat the crap out of everyone. And again, though, it's no surprise that I barely remember that, because it's EVP finals. So it would probably be like me looking at my phone, like, oh yeah, the lad did it, and then phone down. Like, yeah, that's changed recently, more so.
But speaking of that, that was the era where Terrans were proxying every building.
Yes.
Maru proxied every building versus like SOS or something that year.
I remember the thought, like, I don't even remember why. Yeah, so like, I remember the era, like, it might have come off of the Cyclone era. I remember thinking to myself, like, this is probably going to hurt Maru for when he needs to actually play macro games. Because if you're proxying every game, like, I mean, how you, like, eventually when you're in a meta you're stuck playing macro. But yeah, like, I remember he proxies so much.
He proxied, I think it was SOS that round of 16, and he had a huge abrupt exit.
Yeah. SOS is like either the best guy or the absolute worst guy to proxy.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Like, that's the guy, you're literally gambling. You're playing like the most 50-50 hand in poker ever. Every single time, because that guy could be building a building anywhere on the map. Yeah, he was the epitome of the Protoss I hated. But I really respect him, and I think I had a begrudging respect for him then, and more of a respect now. Again, like, I have a different lens now that I understand the game a lot better than I used to. But yeah, back then I was like, this cheesy, because everyone would steal his shit and then kill me with it, and I was like, this is, like, stop it. Like, you're hurting me personally. Like, I feel personally offended that I died to this stupid DT all-in because this bastard did it. Like, yeah, like, yeah, like, hauling SOS is just such a risk. But I mean, that's StarCraft. Like, that was what StarCraft kind of, I think it's kind of what it's lost, but kind of what it was at the time for sure.
And then some of the later years, I guess, which is still 4 years back. Do you remember when ESL announced that there was going to be a 3-year deal for StarCraft?
I remember I was building the apartment in my basement that we were going to stay in for a couple of years, save up. And I remember Dave was helping me lay some flooring down, like Steadfast. And I was like, this is your moment. Like, you cast every one of these. Like, because I think he was just like, his channel was still like much tinier. And he did. He casted like hundreds of them in a row, if I recall correctly. Like, in that was a big opportunity for the for people to get in and just cast if they, like, as kind of amateurs almost. But yeah, I remember that. Like, that feels very recent. Kind of getting older now, but like it still feels like it just happened to me yesterday. Yeah.
And you remember when battle cruisers had a huge place in the beginning of TVZ?
Yeah. I used to call them Fred and George because I'd always lose one. Like from Harry Potter.
I can't.
Yeah, I know. I just had to. Okay. Yeah. I should have known from the delayed laugh. Okay, let's do jet lag.
It was just it took me a second, and I was like, "Oh, that's rude."
And
too soon.
Jason still opens Battlecruiser like every game, and now he's like, "I get to play Battle.Nuke again." Peloton, yeah, yes.
It was such a great opener for me. I mean, it felt like one of the last innovations, actually.
No, I mean, it's
TVZs.
going to be back.
You think so?
Yeah, because Battle.Nuke is back.
I've honestly, like, with all the stupidity of the patch and the bugs and stuff, I've actually checked out until everything's just done. So you have to tell me.
Well, because it's the new Cyclone is like kind of the linchpin. So the new Cyclone, looking back at it, like from the time playing with it in the beginning, I didn't think it was that bad because you could build them. But then the number you built went down and down and down until it basically just became a shitty old Cyclone because you still were only building like 2 or like 1. And all it really did was make it so that Clem could show up at your base with like 3 of them in TVP and just eat you if you played Stargate. And then it killed like half the openers in ZVT. But like in the beginning, it was like, oh, so now like I can die less to roaches and I can build them. Maybe we'll have some Hellion Cyclone, and then naturally that all got optimized away because the threat of it became more potent than the actual building of them. But now that we're back to the old Cyclone, I mean, the old Cyclone could be an army unit because you could just run away. It's more of like I think Jason described it as like a skill check, where it's like really, really, really good Zergs, I have no problem, but the lower level Zergs, like they just can't touch it because they just can't catch it. But yeah, once you're able to play mech again, battlecruiser openings are kind of back on the table because everything sort of scales up from there, right?
Yeah, that would be nice.
Yeah, I think what you're gonna hope. My hope from this patch is that we'll see a return to being able to do more than one thing.
I mean, I do, of course, because we're bad, but professional scene, it'd be nice not to see 3 CC.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think even 3. Actually, no, fuck it, you're right.
Yeah. Anyway, so maybe one of the last, so 3 more questions, but one of the last history-based ones. Yeah, you talked about the Oliveira win and how attached you were to that. Can you talk about your feelings throughout that tournament, watching him, beat?
He's just a normal man.
Here, Marine, then it was Rainer, and that's when everyone was like, "Oh, wait a second."
He was just a normal man. I don't know. Like that's all I remember, and like just watching him win. Because like again, like I remember being super busy that day. And I remember I was like obsessed with checking in on it because I was like, I had a packed day, barely got to see anything, missed the finals, but like him going all the way was like so wild. And then I remember Maru just being tilted off the face of the sun that he lost and just being like, I hope, like I remember the quote that he was like, even if I beat him from now to the end of time, like it will never make up for losing on that stage. And I just remember, like, I love the underdog story more. It's just so good. It's something that's super dead right now, like, I think, in SE.
Yeah.
And then, what do you think StarCraft's legacy is?
I don't know, actually. I don't think it's over yet. So, like, it's hard to say, right? Like, I think a legacy is only truly defined once the thing is done, right? Like, does Brew War have a legacy? Because it's still going.
Depends on what you mean.
Yeah, it has like obviously golden years, but like.
It was more like some answers to this question have been Twitch.
Yeah.
Or the NASL sound guy. Like literally.
I think Twitch is a fair one because like,
Yeah.
no matter what you do, the NASL sound guy is an awesome meme. But as long as Twitch survives, the legacy of StarCraft survives. Even if StarCraft 2 dies, right, that carries on. The NASL sound guy is no longer the NASL sound guy. It's just a meme that lives on. I mean, maybe he is a sound guy, but he's better. I guarantee you he's no longer the NASL sound guy. I mean, the internet's very unforgiving, but that guy could be the best sound guy in the planet, but he's still the NASL sound guy.
But it's a meme, you know, that actually
Yeah.
it's used in other esports.
Sure, like that
Or
guy's.
GSL groups actually is a phrase used in other esports.
Yeah. But like even if you forget about StarCraft, like a legacy lives on, right? Like, and Twitch is actually it's a goated answer for that. But I don't think until it's truly over, like you don't really know, like you don't know if somebody from the scene becomes big, like much bigger, like and then their like the StarCraft 2 legacy can live on through them, or if some other tournament turns into something else, or there's like many ways that it could still have a lasting effect. I think. I don't think it's over just yet.
Second, what are your esports or StarCraft pet peeves? In-game, players, casters, fans, something more than just Protoss would be great.
No, you know, now that Protoss are the underdogs. I cheer for Protoss more now than I ever have. And that's begrudging. Like, that's begrudging. Like, I want, you know, and now a lot of my friends are Protosses, so like I gotta cheer for them. It's rough. I really have to grit my teeth, but I don't have any super hard pet peeves. Maybe like production stuff, but not really. It's more just, I just chuckle at that more than anything. I'm a pretty lax guy, like on the peeves issue. I know some people that are like super anal about stuff, but I'm not one of them.
I'm just going to give you something that might have tilted you. What about the Void Ray all-in, especially before it was nerfed?
Yes, but like pros just didn't lose to it as much. That tilted me, right? Like that's one of the things where like if you want to find a reason all the Terrans quit, like that build made a lot of Terrans quit. But I don't know about like at the high level, like the high level Terrans like kind of knew what to do about it. It became almost pseudo meta because like once something falls out of meta but is still good, sometimes you win just because you do it, even though technically if you're like prepared mentally you don't. But like it's never really been back.
And the final question is, what does StarCraft mean to you?
Oh, I mean, it's like I wouldn't say it's my first love, but it's like it's my second love. Like of the things that I love in life, like StarCraft 2 is up there. Like I may play this game when I am the last guy playing this game. It's possible, you know. I could be here still. I don't know. I just love this thing a lot. I know a lot of people who've gotten very frustrated over the years, but I've never like regretted playing a game of SC2 ever. Like I've always enjoyed it. Yeah.